Today is favorite tool day, and I had a hard time picking one. I don't know if there's a specific tool that I use a lot besides like obviously my rotary cutter or my Kai scissors. I do like my Kai scissors because they are very pretty and teal. But I think when it came down to picking a specific tool that wasn't generic and used all around, I decided that I was gonna go with my stiletto. So I have a couple of these. Most of them are the Bianny ones. My room ate them. So I'm just gonna talk about this here because this does the job as well. And I actually use it for a couple different things. So you've seen me use these for binding, and I had never used one before until I started working at Cali Quilt Co. And so the Bianny ones were the one that my boss Tava hypes up, and they're totally understand why. They are very strong and very sturdy, and they're great. They use them a lot for bag making and stabbing things and holding them in place. But they also work great for sewing with Minky. If you find that you're sewing with Minky and you either have or don't have a walking foot, either way, and things start to shift on you, you can stab this into there and kind of let it ease out and feed its way through until it's smooth again. And so that's nice. And then I use it a lot, as you've seen, for binding. And so I will use this when I don't want my fingers to get in the way, or if I'm trying to record and have less visual. And so I'll stab this into my binding and kind of let it go on in, and then when it stops, and then flip a little bit more over and then go on in. So I use this to kind of hold things in place, so then I can use my finger to kind of keep other things flat and just kind of like work together without totally stabbing things. And then I have the dumbest new thing that I've used this for. So let me grab a bobbin and I'll show you. So when I make a lot of my 3-yard quilts, I tend to just use whatever thread I have because I'm trying to empty up my M-class bobbins for the long arm, because sometimes I'll wind like 3 bobbins and then use 2 and maybe barely into the 3rd. And so I don't want to just pull all that thread off, or I've set my bobbin aside and moved the thread color somewhere else so I don't know what color is anymore. And so when I want to use those up, I'll use this. This is the soft box from my video light. And so what I'll do, I'm telling you, this is very high tech. I will let my bobbin roll off. And so it's got these like little holes in there. And so I'll stab my stiletto through so that it holds it in there. I'm telling you, I'm real high tech right now. And then I'll thread this through my machine, and then, and actually the Bianny one works better for this. And then it'll come off the bobbin like it's a spool of thread, and then it doesn't get as like loopy and tangled as if it's like laying sideways and coming up. This way it's rolling off nicely, and then I don't have to worry about my thread getting all twisted on itself, because the glide tends to do that because it comes off the cone instead of the way the Aurifil does. So it doesn't lay sideways as well. So that is my handy dandy, super high tech thread rolling device that also involves a stiletto. So I tend to not do that when I'm binding with a stiletto, only if I can find my other ones. So I think I have like two Bianny ones. This pretty one, which is a dual end. It's got the seam ripper on the other side. The seam ripper has gotten a little dull, so that's a bummer, but at least I have the pretty stiletto end. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and trim up and bind that shadow play quilt. We are now at the point where the shadow play quilt is done and quilted and completed and checked off the list. So it's got that, usually I don't use a light colored binding, but I felt like because of my options were pretty slim as far as what fabric I did have left over from this, that was just the right choice. And I do feel like it's a good tie-in with the dots. And I mean, obviously it came from a wedding quilt that used all these fabrics, so we know it coordinates. And the backing, you really see those roses kind of in that navy blue thread. I think it just gives it a little something extra and kind of pumps it up a little bit and makes it a little fancy. So I am quite pleased with how this turned out. And even the dark blue looks good on the front, where kind of you don't see the roses as much, but it's still in there. So shadow play was a good quilt to do, and it's good for big prints, both in the block as well as in the half square triangles. So let's show you some finished pictures and we'll be back again real soon.